And then I'll just give it to you. Good evening, ladies and germs. This is Coffee and Propaganda. I'm here with Tim Min again. Is that how I pronounce your last? It's just Min.
Yeah, it's Min.
Okay. So some pretty crazy events this week. We got the riots going on. George Floyd died. What do we think about that? That's a little. What piques my interest with this is that remember with Rodney King, they had to wait till a verdict acquitted the police officers to set them off. And with this, it's just like the brutality alone is enough to spark the riot. So it reveals a bit of a higher trigger or a quicker trigger on the finger of the black community in this situation.
Yeah, also, I think that because of the brutality of it, it sets it apart from the other ones. I definitely feel like the black community, at least to some extent, they feel like it's already like normal that they're being killed by police officers, right? So then, because of that, because this was particularly bad, it like kind of brings more attention to the issue, or at least in their mind.
Right, and it's the symbolism of how the image looks too. I think plays a role into that with the police officer with a knee on the neck of the person. And knees on necks or stepping on someone's neck is kind of symbolic. I think there's some ancient symbolism involved in that, stepping on the neck.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally like boot on neck sort of like imagery.
Yeah. News event this week, and I'm going to try to share this as quick as I can, and I try not to mess this up. News event today, actually. We've got a gentleman who was fired over pretty much the most innocuous thing I know of that would trigger anyone is calling. He was fired. A sports broadcaster was fired just for using the word all or the term or phrase "all lives matter." Let me get that link up here.
Actually, like this is really funny. This is something that happened locally. Someone, I think it's like someone around like a local university posted up signs that said like it's okay to be white, and like there was like literally police were like investigating this. That's like
right. That was crazy too. Yeah, it's okay to be white. I mean, honestly, okay. For one thing, Black Lives Matter. They have to have some consideration for the fact that a lot of the attention they get is a result of the fact that their name is controversial or their name is confusing or that it's perhaps poorly chosen. I don't think this was on purpose to have a name that was poorly chosen, but it is poorly chosen. It's not thought out well. I mean, honestly, I think they should just change it to Black Lives Also Matter. But then when you're going to have that kind of confusion over your name, it's a double-edged sword. You can't get mad at people for interpreting it as a closed-minded or a sort of statement that only black people deserve.
Yeah. I think I also just find it like, I know a lot of people, they basically like they felt like Black Lives Matter was an unsuitable name because they felt like it's meant that only Black Lives Matter, which I think it's a misunderstanding that like would literally not happen if they called it Black Lives Also Matter. Right. It mattered in addition to all other lives.
Right. But that's odd. But it's a double-edged sword though, because that confusion, that controversy over the poorly chosen name actually helps get them, notice, or has probably helped them in the media a lot more as far as spreading their message around or getting them on screen more than if they had chosen a better name.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the really famous like they're bringing in crime quote from Trump, right? Like I felt like I understood exactly what he meant, but the thing is like obviously it stirred a lot of controversy because of the ambiguity there.
Right. So here's the article. Longtime Sacramento Kings TV broadcaster Grant Napier resigned Tuesday after he tweeted "All lives matter" when asked by DeMarcus Cousins for his opinion on the Black Lives Matter movement. The 60-year-old Napier was also fired by KTH Sports on 1140 in Sacramento. He had co-hosted the show on the AM show with the former Kings player Doug Christie. Bonneville International, the station's parent company, said Napier's recent comments about the Black Lives Matter movement do not reflect the views or values of Bonneville International Corporation. The timing of Grant's tweet was particularly insensitive. There have been demonstrations across the country, such as George Floyd, a black man, died on May 25th after a white Minneapolis police officer pressed his knee into Floyd's neck while Floyd was handcuffed and saying that he couldn't breathe. Cousins was drafted by Sacramento and played with the Kings for plus 6 seasons before he was traded to New Orleans in February 2017. Cousins, who had been criticized by Napier past, tweeted at the broadcast on Sunday night, "What is your take on BLM?" Napier responded, "Hey, how are you? I thought you forgot about me. Haven't heard from you in all years. All lives matter, every single one." Cousins posted that Napier's response was expected. Former Kings forward Matt Barnes then called Napier a closet racist. In response to criticism from another Twitter user, Napier said he apologized if his comment came across as dumb. "I've been doing more listening than talking the past few weeks," Napier posted. "I believe the past 2 days will change this country for the better." Okay. So this is a comment, all lives matter, that someone like Confucius might say. I mean, give me a break. And this is something we're going to fire people for, and this is an intolerant message. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, basically, like, I think a lot of people, like, they try to read into these situations almost like in a, how does it, basically treat it like a piece of literature, right? They say that this phrase represents something grander within the bigger narrative, which obviously isn't how life works. But,
right, it's not how life works. Sometimes with the authoritarian left, it's almost like they're like a child. It's almost like the 50s America is their parent, kind of like, and they're rebelling from the parent. You know, some parents some kids don't like their parent, and they try to be so much unlike him that it becomes absurd. You know, like Jerry Falwell's dad was a moonshiner, and so he grew up. I don't know if it was his dad, but he grew up around moonshiners, and then he went in the opposite direction to this ridiculous extreme. And, you know, people that have, you know, like strict parents, they'll grow up and they'll, you know, tattoos and their whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So they go this rigorous thing. It seems like the authoritarian left, they're going this opposite extreme of what they perceive the 50s as being, like this totally racist place. And now we're going to be so extreme in the opposite end, and we're going to tolerate the smallest little message that just might be perceived as insensitive in some kind of manner, and fire people and all this kind of crap. It's just out of control.
I think at least part of it is because it's performative, right? It's like you want to show people that you're woke. That's a big part of it, I think, especially the biggest voices.
Yeah, I'd say that's part of it. But I don't know. You know, I have a post here. Why don't I just get to it right now? I have it. Okay, we got somebody joining us here.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
I can give you a minute, Julian. You don't have to go on right now.
How are you? The gym opened back up today.
But Julian, I can give you a minute. You don't have to be on right now. You want a minute?
Yeah, you guys can just talk about whatever you're talking about. It's cool.
I'll take you off screen for a minute. Okay. Well, okay. We were talking about the Sacramento Kings announcer who was fired today over saying all lives matter.
Oh yeah, I haven't even heard about this.
Okay. Well, I'll read it to you a little bit, not the whole thing, because we just went over it. So the announcer, longtime Sacramento Kings TV announcer Grant Napier, resigned Tuesday after he tweeted "All lives matter" when asked by DeMarcus Cousins for his opinion on the all Black Lives Matter movement. This is his actual tweet. It says, "Hey, how are you? Thought you forgot about me. Haven't heard you in years. All lives matter, every single one." So then they were called for him to resign, and he resigned over saying all lives matters, like something Confucius would freaking say. And now this is too controversial to have out there. You know what? Come on. So as I was commenting a little bit ago, it's almost like the issue here is that Black Lives Matter gets some notoriety simply from the fact that their name was poorly chosen. It probably should be like Black Lives Also Matter. I mean, we understand what it means, but it was poorly chosen. And part of their having this poorly chosen name has actually helped them because it kind of gives them more, you know, attention. That's a double-edged sword, though. You can't then say that people that don't understand the name the way you mean it are insensitive and all this kind of things. You know, you can't. You know, you can't have it. Yeah, I mean, so And we were Tim was mentioning earlier. It was kind of similar to the reaction of what was the thing about the gentleman who somebody wrote. What was I forgot already.
Oh, it was they're bringing crime, right? That one.
What's that?
They're bringing crime. The Trump quote. They're bringing crime. They're bringing drugs. They're rapists.
Oh no, I mean the other one. We're talking about the wall that was written. The white. It's okay to be white.
Oh, it's okay to be white. Yeah, that's the local one.
Is that really? I mean, come on. I mean, that causes outrage. That causes, it's okay to be white. It's not like it's better to be white. It's just okay.
Yeah. Although, like I was saying before, right? Because there's some number of people who, when they say Black Lives Matter, it's like performative. But also, there's people who, when they say like it's okay to be white, it's also performative, right? Because there are people who are racist who say this just to like get a rile out of people. So, although like it works, it does get a rile out of people, and it makes people who get mad.
The way they're going to see it is it's the person who's using the tag. They're going to trace that back to somebody who's using that. It's kind of like a backdoor. Is what they'll do, because you have like White Lives Matter, which I mean that would be the same, like White Lives Matter too, but then they're going to trace it back to somebody who's like racist saying that to like mock Black Lives Matter.
Right. To me, White Lives Matter would be easily. I would even consider that as probably racist. White Lives Matter. Because we don't really have an issue with white lives. Usually, people kind of get that one. So saying it kind of on a mark of superiority or promoting superiority almost. Whereas
there's people who might feel like they're being discriminated against because they're white by the authoritarian left, quote unquote, or whoever. So people like that.
Well, I was just ranting about the authoritarian left. I'm like that, but I don't think white people are unfairly discriminated against. I mean, there are instances, I'm sure, where it's happening, but
it's not happening. It's probably not happening a lot.
No, not happening a lot. It's certainly not institutional. I mean, I don't know of any kind of situation where I think that I've been mistreated for being white. Well, there was one.
You were having a debate on the safe affirmative action. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, there was one instance where when I was writing for the college newspaper, and they had an award ceremony, and I was told that I probably wouldn't get an award because I'm a white male. Because they tended to favor giving black writers or minority writers awards. That's the only time I've ever felt discriminated against because I'm a white male. But that's kind of an uncommon situation.
Oh, and you're a teacher?
No, I wasn't a teacher. I was a writer for a college newspaper back in, when I was in college.
Okay, I see.
And we went to an award show for, like an award thing for the writers and best editorial, best this and that. And I was told that I wouldn't get an award for my column because I was white and the other writers were black and they're promoting minorities. That's the only time I ever felt discriminated for being white. That's a very uncommon situation, though.
Yeah, I mean, college is a whole other world, right? Like, the thing is, like, people talk about, like, college politics and stuff as if it, like, actually matters, even though it really doesn't, right? Because, like, college, like, people who go to college represent, like, 30% of the population maybe now, like, tops. And then, like, among that, like, only a very small number of people actually participate in the college politics. So it's just, like, it's like a few people spouting off about, like, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
but then these kids go through that kind of experience and, they think that's their adulthood, and then they get out of there. I don't know how they're going to deal with the real world, thinking that that's actually how the real world works, the way college works as far as college politics goes.
And like the people who like couldn't wrap their head around the fact that like Trump won the election, right? Because to them it actually made no sense. Because like 80% of the people they knew wouldn't have voted for Trump or even have considered it.
It didn't make sense to me either. I mean, I don't say I was as surprised as others, but when he started winning the primary, I thought that was ridiculous. I thought his candidacy was a joke at first. And I'm like, what the hell? And then we started winning. So what the hell is wrong with these people? Are actually supporting him? Yeah. He's a freaking celebrity. I mean, what qualifications does he possibly have?
But like, after he got the Republican nomination, I think like it was like it's actually conceivable that he could win, right? You could like just look at the math and go like, okay, if he won these like key battleground states, then he would win the election.
Right.
So like you see how it would work. But if you like only live in college and you don't think about this all that hard, then to you it's impossible. Because it's like, what? There's no democracy if like all my friends hate Trump and he still wins. So.
And then a lot of them, though, I think that the sheer fact, and obviously that we're talking about something old, but it does relate to current situations. The sheer fact that he said he grabbed a woman by the pussy and it didn't lose him the election, to me, kind of caused Me Too by itself, because the sheer fact that he was able to become president, even though he said that, made every man on earth the target or the scapegoat for that injustice of him getting elected, despite him saying that.
Like after Trump got elected, he went on national television. He was like, I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and still be president.
Probably
it's so true though. Probably the truest thing he said.
Do you hear the news story this week about him going to the church there though? That was pretty ridiculous. So I think you shared that, didn't you?
Didn't he like tear gas people to get them out?
They had to tear gas people to get them out of a church or out of this yard of the church, just for him to go there and have a photo op.
Fox News is saying that they didn't do tear gas. I don't know if it's one news source saying that. It doesn't. They still use force, right? So tear gas or no tear gas, it's the same to me.
But this happened, I guess, because he didn't really plan it ahead of time or something like that. He just kind of just said, let's go right now or something like that. You know?
Yeah, then when he gets there, supposedly he doesn't really actually pray or anything. He just wants to take a picture and then go back, and they had to move all these protesters and all this crazy stuff.
What I find strange is that they couldn't even tell the people that that's why they were being asked to leave. Why couldn't you just say, hey, the president's coming here for a photo op. Could you go, why they got to be so like freaking brutal and just like, get the fuck
out. He was egging the protesters on. I think the one night people were saying on social media, there were reports I only saw on social media where people were saying that they were jamming the cell phones and that the White House was black and that it was just, an all out riot. And the reaction was, like the White House blacked out and they put Trump in a bunker and they jammed all the cell phones. So the situation in DC seems it's definitely on them. But the thing was, the night before that, though, he was actually taunting them on Twitter and saying, I'm going to release ferocious dogs and all this stuff because they were at the gates, and that so some of the protesters were trying to break the gates.
Yeah. And now we have a situation where Trump's threatening to bring in the freaking army.
Yeah. No one's used the. He wants to go to a rule from the early 1800s. Where he says he can use the military in certain situations. He wants to take it that far. But most of the protesters are peaceful, and a lot of the looting seems to me like the people, they're criminals anyway, and they don't have anything to do with this. They just see that opportunity. Like, there isn't a better time to go rob a place than while the police are all busy right now. It seems to me that should
look at it statistically, but how much of rioter versus peaceful demonstrations is this compared to 92? With Rodney King, would we say that this is more peaceful than that was? I'm not really so sure.
It's way more violent than that.
It's more violent than 92 with the LA riots. You think so?
Yeah, I was young. We were all. I know you were like a year or two older than me, I think, but we were pretty. I don't really remember it that well, but I don't remember. I think that because especially it was just contaminated to LA. I think so. And now we have something that's nationwide,
right?
This has never happened. Like
a ratio of peaceful protesters to rioters. Would you say that this is hard to say, but would you say that the ratio of non-peaceful protesters in 92 was a higher ratio compared to the peaceful ones?
I just don't have anything to judge it from, but you say that we're saying like an overall number, if you took a percentage out of the overall group, it's. I don't really have anything to look at, and
from what
was just so long ago. I can't really.
Right. Well, it seems like predominantly though, with the George Floyd riots, predominantly they're peaceful people.
These
I think
these days you can get much more protesters than you could back in 92. Because back in 92, I'm not so sure that this large of a population was rioting.
Yeah.
Right. So you think like that.
Another difference between, and I was commenting on this earlier, the 92 protests happened after the officers were acquitted, whereas this happened simply as a reaction to the brutality itself. So it's kind of different in this fact that the reaction seems to be just the fact that the brutality is ongoing. Whereas 92, the reaction was to the fact that we had a system that almost enabled this to happen because they didn't hold the people accountable by acquitting them. So there's a really
and part of that again. I'm sorry.
There's a difference in the reaction of the fact that they didn't. For instance, in '92, they had to wait for an acquittal of the officers before they rioted. Where in this time, they rioted just because the guy was murdered.
Right. Yeah. Well, it just seemed like the time was right for it. I mean, people were just because they've been at home and they're bored for so long, and they, know, and they're seeing all the stuff on, all that's playing with everyone. I mean, can't say it doesn't play with my head and my emotion. It hasn't, and I try not to look at the news too much, but I've been glued to it.
In that sense, though, it's less sensible than what happened in '92 because we comprehended that the rioting or the protests in '92 were a result of the fact that we had a justice or a court system that was acquitting police officers for beating people. That can't be tolerated. So there's an obvious action that can be taken to correct that. In some ways, try to make police officers more accountable. That kind of thing. In this situation, what do they want? That's kind of what I like to know. What do the protesters specifically want to happen?
I think that's a really good question because I mean, I wanted the same thing myself. Like, why would I? That's the reason that I'm not really interested in going to a protest, even though I definitely empathize with the protesters. And of course, we can't condone violence, and I don't really think I don't really believe they should do those things, but I might not care very much that they are, as long as it's not someone's like private property, like they want to try to crash the White House or. That might not bother me.
Well, if they crash the White House, that's cool. That's actually cool. I think it's actually the rational thing to do. Right? Like if you're black and you honestly believe that the government is like out to kill black people, then of course you want to like attack the government, right? I think that in their worldview, it's irrational to like attack private businesses, especially ones owned by black people. It just makes zero sense. Right?
What a good leader would say, a good president would say, and Bill Clinton probably should have said this in '92. Hey. Why don't you all form a committee or something like that and come to me with some ideas, instead of just randomly yelling, let's have some ideas. What do you think you want us to do different? What is a law or a proposal that you have in mind that might, stop this? We're open to listening to you instead of just being mad.
Yeah, it's just being mad. When I had that speeding ticket thing, the other people in the courtroom, like, they were coming up to me when I was leaving. They were like, "This court's corrupt, and this judge, and they don't care about anybody." And they were like, I was like their hero because I was able to like stand up to all those people. And then I saw the black guy who's up against like some I don't know what he's up against, but all of a sudden he like tried to mimic me. He's like, this is but then that's great, like jumping up and down and stuff. Like, it's actually gonna, you see what I'm saying? Like I showed somebody how to stand up to the people as opposed to jumping up and down and getting mad. I really think more and more about trying to create like a YouTube channel where I talk about that stuff in a way where I wouldn't get in trouble, but other people could maybe try it and understand it more, because there really isn't any reason. These people they're afraid to do it, and really you need an attorney to do it, and it's it's just a speeding ticket or whatever, so they're not going to bother. So yeah, that's something I think about a lot of starting.
I think most people have like a skewed perspective of how the law actually works, right? A lot of people I think a lot of people had the impression that if they like just like basically like cave in and like confess, that'll be good for them, which is obviously bullshit, right? Like, you're not supposed to talk to the cops like at all, and I think that's part of what helped you, right? You didn't like yap to the cops or whatever.
Oh no, I was a total dick to the guy. I mean, I didn't admit to anything.
Yeah, exactly, right? But like a lot of people, they feel like they'll get off easier by like confessing, right? Even though zero people have gotten off of a speeding ticket or anything just from confessing. Like it doesn't work like that, right? But people have the impression that it does.
I'm gonna be off screen for a minute.
I think that they'll let them go if they do that, and of course there's just an admission and it's on tape, and there's no way to get out of it. I mean, it's really hard to beat the officer in court, though. You have to really do what I did and use the discovery process, because they won't follow the discovery process, and then you have an appeal, and that's the last thing the judge wants, is for you to have an appeal, because he just wants to get rid of the case, which is really his job anyway. He has to get rid of the case as fast as possible, so that's when he'll side with you and not the prosecutor. Otherwise, it's an uphill battle, but it should just be a lot of time and frustration for people who don't realize that you have to follow that process.
Yeah. Honestly, I think
That's a lot of
it shows like most people's attitude toward the government pretty well, because most people just fold in court basically. Like they don't even bother trying to fight these things. They just go in and they just surrender essentially, like white flag. Right.
Well, they trick you because they don't tell you that you they try to get the first thing they do is they try to get you to waive your right to speedy trial. So you wouldn't actually have time. The thing is, you wouldn't actually have time to file your subpoena even, and then they just like they always do this thing like we're off the record. Like that, like we're off the record. I think I was, but the thing is, they're just trying to get you to like trick you into waiving your rights, because they want to take the prosecutor's side, and it's silly. And that's why you have to really get. And the other people in the courtroom didn't understand that, and that was different.
I mean, like there's so many legal misconceptions, right? Like people think like, oh, like cops can't lie to you. Like I don't even know how people had this idea, right? People like, oh, like if the cop tells you that, like if you confess everything, he'll help you. That means he has to do it because cops can't lie. But it's like, no, cops can lie.
Yeah, they're trained to do it. They're trained. The officer told me. Basically, this is just what one guy says. But he told me in the elevator, he's like, no, we never lose, and we're trained, and they don't even write. They're supposed to keep notes, and they don't even really keep notes. So it's just them. It's literally just them saying that all they have to do is go and say, oh, I'm trained and I saw the car and it was going too fast. And that's enough evidence for the judge. And the Supreme Court,
evidence no one fights against it, I guess. But like, you could fight it if you knew how. So good job.
Yeah, if you know how, because what most people are going to do is they're going to go there and then maybe they'll probably take the plea deal if they just say that there's no points or whatever, which is what they try to do. But they gave me that, but they'll get really angry at the prosecutor, but they haven't followed those steps and they don't realize that what the officer says is pretty much gold, and they have to have some sort of other evidence to enter. That's one of the reasons why I actually drive the dash cam now, because I even though there's no other way for me to prove that I was behind the school bus that was swerving around everywhere, and I was driving the speed limit, but I just didn't feel safe and the officer used that to pen me, and he wouldn't admit it. And if I had that on tape, I could use that would be a solid. But you could tear the officer up on the stand with but you have to have the tape. You don't have tape of it. So it would never work in a million years.
There's a chance to react to
about this ticket for quite a while now.
Great.
When did you get this ticket? It was almost a year ago, wasn't it?
No, this was just in January, and then September is when I got the ticket, and then it wasn't resolved until January, and that was. I can't believe I don't have. I can't believe I didn't take pictures or videotape me talking to that cop or something like that.
On a tangent, it actually shows how fast the news cycle is, because it felt like way longer than just like January that you won the case. It feels way longer than that.
It was way more exciting than but I guess in the long run, I wouldn't say it's my best accomplishment this year, because in the long run it wouldn't matter. And there's other things that have gone in my life that obviously matter a little bit more than winning the speeding ticket.
Maybe the judge just gave, it's possible that you won because the judge is just sick of everybody losing.
Oh, no, I had them. I was going to file an appeal. He knew that, and it would be really bad.
The judge probably just sits there and this holds up, that holds up, that holds up, that holds up. I really doubt anybody hardly ever wins those things.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I won because I used the process of discovery. So basically, I subpoenaed the officer, and I told them they had to turn over all their evidence to me that they wanted to have in their trial, because we were supposed to have a trial, and then they didn't do it. So all I had to do was say I asked them to provide the stuff in the trial. They never told me what.
All this Matlock stuff was to avoid how much of a fine?
Well, no, it was points on my license, and I don't know if you guys probably don't know this, but at the time I had other income, but I was driving Uber and stuff like that, and I didn't want it on there. And also, I really, I might not like the police and authority that much to begin with, topped by the fact that I was not really speeding. I just didn't feel safe, and I just beat a lawsuit too. So I was already I was feeling the high from that when this happened. Actually, that's when I won my lawsuit by myself. And then it's like, because I didn't actually get to go in front of the judge or whatever. I think that was all through the mail. Like they're totally different. Like it's all through the mail. But I did help. Like the discovery thing is through the mail, and it helped me because that's one of the reasons why I knew to do that. I wasn't afraid to do it because I already did it with the loss. But yeah, so I was like, if this guy wants to do this, then I'll go ahead and give this a try too. And I wrote down as a goal every day that I was going to do it, and I just went in there and did it, and just kicked ass and had a good time doing it. And I do it again. And my only regret is that I don't have a picture or a video. But I think I might be able to get a video of me talking to the judge from the court, but I haven't looked into it.
I just have a question for both of you. So, like, I don't know how it works in the States, but if you plead guilty, can the court find you innocent? Does it ever happen? Is it possible?
If you plead guilty, no.
I don't know if that's ever.
You waive all your rights.
Like, imagine there's no evidence, but you plead guilty. Like, can they find you innocent?
No, you waive all your rights unless they think that you're crazy or that you're being coerced. Then they can. Yeah.
The judge wouldn't think you had no evidence if they got to the trial phase.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You know, he already believes there's evidence if you got that far. You know, he's not going
to. I mean, you have to introduce all the evidence. The judge doesn't decide. I mean, the jury would. The judge basically decides if they're following the legal process, and that's what he's accountable for.
I know it has happened where judges will occasionally not overturn a guilty verdict, but they're expecting a guilty verdict, and the judge will just say there's not enough evidence and overturn it. I wish it happened more often.
Because of the appeal process. They might.
That should happen a lot more often, I would think, but it seems judges are just as dumb as juries most of the time.
Well, I mean, that's actually a lawyer saying is the judge is dumb because see this is something a lot of people might not understand is that the judge isn't supposed to really have any bias. He's just, like I said, he's accountable to make sure that the legal process is being followed. He or she, they or whatever, they just want to get this case off their desk as fast as possible and out of their courtroom as fast as possible, and that's what their goal is. There is actually just to get rid of it, is to dispose of it as fast as possible, and that's one of the things that they, it's how efficient the legal process is, and that's they usually want it to be very efficient.
What's going on?
So, yeah, they're dumb. They just want to get rid of
it. You got to get going, Tim.
Oh yeah. My buddy's here.
All right. Well, have a good day, Tim. Thanks for
for sure. I'll talk to you guys another time.
Yeah.
Bye, Julia. Bye, Ben.
Yep. What I found interesting, though, because we're tying this into court, is that who is the gentleman that was murdered? I'm forgetting the name already since George Floyd's in my head now. So the gentleman that was thought to be a jogger, and he was shot by those two white guys in the truck. And what was his name? I'm already drawing a blank there.
I know you're talking about in '92, right?
No, I'm talking about recently. The guy who was shot by they thought he was a jogger, and the father described it as a lynching.
I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. It was all over the place. Ahmaud Arbery. You never heard of Ahmaud Arbery, Julian?
No.
Oh, really? Okay. So just before George Floyd, not too long before that, actually it's ongoing. There's been controversy because a gentleman who was first described as a jogger, he looked like, a jogger, I guess, in the video, is running down the street, and there's a video of two white guys pull up to him with guns. He tries to wrestle one of the guns away from one of the white guys, and the white guy kills him. So it's obviously a case of murder. Now, what seems odd about the situation was that all these videos were coming out of like security cam footage of him walking into some construction site in the neighborhood. And what I found really strange about that is how did they get that footage? I mean, it seemed like the police officers or the powers that be in that town or whatever were almost priming the public for an acquittal in case there wasn't, to try to prevent another Rodney King.
They probably subpoenaed it.
Well, you think the news company did?
Yeah. Or maybe somebody came forward and gave it to them.
How would anyone even know that such a thing existed? A security cam footage. I mean, there was a lot of things that just came out. I just gotta feel like they were priming us for these guys might get acquitted. Hope you don't get too mad. Here's some stuff to get you ready for that.
It could be. I mean, the media. It's all about. It's not really about. It's all about emotions because that's what people tune in for is things that move them emotionally, and that's what gets you excited. And so I mean, these are things that it's clickbait,
right? And if you can add more to the story, even if it's something inconsequential to a judgment about a situation, there's a video. They're releasing videos of him walking around a construction site. It's kind of inconsequential to what happened. He was just there kind of trespassing, sort of. This didn't prompt anyone to pull, it wasn't an unnecessary situation where somebody needed to pull a gun on him. But it's what he was doing shortly before he was murdered. And then after that, he's running down the street, and these two white guys come up to him with shotguns or guns or whatever, and he ends up killed. I'll show you the video really quick since you don't seem to be familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm not. This is the first I've heard about this.
Really, it was all over the place.
It might be that I just try not to look at the news too much, or I look at different news sources. The ones I look at are actually right now I pretty much just read Reuters, and on purpose because it's so broad.
Right.
It's not really very detailed.
I'm going through an ad right now. Sorry. What you doing, lady? My girlfriend just walked in the room. Huh? Going to your mom's? You ride your bike, honey? You gonna walk? You gonna walk backwards? You walk on your hands?
I'm not a dog. I don't have 4 legs and I don't got a tail.
Okay, this one's one moment. Okay, pausing this. And adding. Okay, a screen save, which would be like that. And there's my stream. Okay. And okay. Anyway, you'll have to take my word for it.
I'll look it up.
When I first clicked the screen save and I first add it, then it asked me what I want to share, if it's an app window or something like that. But if I already have it on there, it doesn't ask me again for some stupid reason.
What is it? I'll see if I can find it.
Oh, it's Ahmaud Arbery shooting. Yeah. And most of the videos cut off before he's shot because it's like kind of brutal. There's a struggle and you hear the gun go off and then the white guy walks away from him.
This is a lot of 2.9.
Takes a couple steps and then falls on his face.
Not to mention
I think I have it here.
Floyd guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 3 cops are getting charged with second-degree murder.
Back here, father and son, who said they were trying to make a citizen's arrest. Here's ABC's Zachary Quiche.
Tonight, law enforcement is reviewing video appearing to show Ahmaud Arbery in the moments before he died. This surveillance footage obtained by ABC affiliate First Coast News. A man enters this house under construction in the mostly white South Georgia neighborhood of Satilla Shores. Arbery's lawyers say they believe it's Ahmaud. Video from inside the home obtained by local station WJXT shows the man in a white shirt and khaki shorts looking around. The first 911 call coming in around 1:08 p.m.
Guy in the house right now. The house under construction.
Arbery's lawyers say he did not take anything or cause any damage, adding Ahmaud's actions were in no way a felony under Georgia law. The homeowner telling the Washington Post, "I've never had anything stolen from my property or any kind of robbery." According to his lawyers, Arbery's inside for under 3 minutes. The video seems to be sped up and slowed down in some places. Here you can make out 2 men getting into a truck. They are presumed to be Gregory and Travis McMichael, now charged with Arbery's murder. By 1:15 p.m., a second 911 call.
There's a black male running down the street.
When detectives arrived at the scene at 1:45 p.m., Arbery was dead. The McMichaels told police they thought Arbery was this man. caught on these surveillance images from the construction site given to ABC News by a local lawyer. Since October, 3 other trespassing incidents were reported. The Arbery say that man is not their son. Tonight,
So you think that this led into what's happening now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that more information seemed to keep coming out about it, like the security cam footage you saw of him walking into a construction site. Why the hell would anyone think that would even exist? Which is weird. It seemed like someone wanted to prep the public to kind of be against Arbery, or maybe think he deserved it so that they wouldn't riot, when there was an acquittal. Maybe they were expecting an acquittal. But what a lot of morons are saying about this, and I think that they're morons, are saying that it was self-defense because Arbery grabbed his gun. So if I approached you and I'm holding a gun and someone grabs it and I kill you, that's self-defense. That's what they're telling me. So a lot of like extreme conservatives are kind of, or right wingers are kind of saying that.
What about a gun in self-defense again?
They're saying what a lot of right wingers are saying is that, okay, the black man runs at him. He has a gun in his hand. The black man tries to grab his gun and they start wrestling over the gun.
Yeah.
Then it's self-defense to kill him because he's trying to get your gun from you.
I've seen so many videos of on YouTube. I watch a lot of. I like to watch police videos. Just anyway on YouTube and just when I'm trying to relax or whatever.
But of course, that's not self-defense. If you try to take a cop's gun, it's self-defense. I would say that, but I don't think if you're bringing a gun to confront somebody and they feel threatened enough to try to take it from you, that's actually a reasonable reaction, kind of. I mean, it's more reasonable than a lot of reactions. If somebody's actually, trying to confront you holding a gun, you might want to take the gun away from them. So they try to take a gun away from you and you just kill them. Of course, that's murder. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think the Supreme Court, the way the Supreme Court's looking at that, I'd have to look it up to be sure to find the case or whatever, is that basically if the cops feel threatened enough that they can do whatever they want.
Right. But in a regular situation though, I mean, if someone comes on your or walks by your yard or anyway, and you want to confront them for walking on your property, and you walk up to them, you're holding a gun, and they decide and they feel threatened by the fact that you're holding a gun, and they try to get the gun from you. If you then shoot them, that's murder. It's not self-defense because you brought the gun into the situation, and come on.
Right? Yeah, you're asking for it. If you're dealing with the police and you're showing a gun, you're not.
Well, not the police, but anybody. I mean, talking about what happened in this Arbery case. He was approaching 2 guys with guns who were just confronting him with guns. And he tried to take the gun from the man, and then the man shot him. There are people that think that that's self-defense on part of the gunman.
Well, that's a silly argument. I mean, if he was the victim, then it's a silly argument.
Well, they're saying that it wasn't murder; it was self-defense because the black guy tried to grab the gun from his hand.
Yeah, that's a silly argument.
But I honestly think that there's a possibility of an acquittal here. Some people there are some dumb juries that I think might acquit these guys. And I feel like a lot of the news information we're given was almost priming us for that event. But then there was a riot anyway over a different incident. It was like I thought we were getting primed to not riot, and then there was a riot anyway over George Floyd.
Well, what's going on now is just.
It's also strange that this riot's happening at the same time that we're having coronavirus and people are told to wear masks over their face. So now they're rioting and they're getting caught on video with masks on.
Well, I think it's added to it because the people that they're bored and they're at home. I mean, they're young anyway, so they might not even really.
Yeah,
it might not matter to them that much.
New information was coming out that they're able to pinpoint the rioters now by their GPS footage. So
Well, that's the surprise. That yeah, if you're going to that and you bring your phone with you, then yeah, they're
That's
gonna.
happening. Yeah.
You just left the
So
footprint
they're able to actually pinpoint where someone was specifically in a store, like a window was broken. So they know exactly who was standing outside that window at that particular time, from GPS footage. That's how exact GPS is now. We can know exactly where you are.
Yeah, they should. They're gonna arrest a lot of people if they haven't already, because yeah, it's all over social media.
Mhm.
I mean that's maybe that's one of the things that's different about this is that it can be all uploaded.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been pretty much been watching it at home a lot since especially on Friday and Sunday. I watched hours and hours of it. But yeah, there's a record of all the stuff that's happening there too. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, we're definitely living in this world of cameras. And, the Rodney King, when that was turned in, that was just because somebody just happened to have a home video camera around there at the time. He didn't upload it. He videotaped it, and then he made a tape and then sent it into a news station. And that's how that had to be done back then. Not that many people walk around with video cameras. Nowadays, you catch everything, any kind of thing that happens. If it happens in the middle of broad daylight in the middle of a town, someone's going to videotape it. And
Right.
so, George Floyd, I don't think, 10, 20 years ago, anyone would have even remembered this or videotaped it or anything. But, this is the world we're living in now where, a lot of things are caught on tape. And, I don't know. Do we feel sorry for the police for having to make these kinds of decisions, or do we not?
In the case you're talking about,
In any kind of situation, do they have, because when you're a cop and you're out there, I understand that you can't always sit around and have to contemplate everyone's medical issues.
they're not trained. I mean, they're not. I think it's the training of it. I mean, you have to look at every case individually.
Right.
So it's hard to say without looking at each
Are we
case.
saying systematic though, so that there is no situation where you ever put a knee on someone's neck? Does that never happen?
Definitely not. But I mean, they're being trained that way.
They are.
So they're being trained. Yeah.
To subdue somebody to just, is it just because it gives them a little pain, to calm them down, or?
But I don't know why exactly they would do it. I mean,
Right.
yeah, it's definitely a very aggressive approach.
But in Floyd's case, he had underlying medical problems.
Mm-hmm.
And, another person might have survived all that, but he had these medical issues, that might have played a role in his death. I don't know. So do you feel sorry for the police, just in the sense that they have to think about these kind of things, about, what's this guy's medical problem? I could maybe murder him if I tackle him to the ground.
Oh no, they're not trained to care about the guy's medical problem at all. I mean, they have to be a police officer, an effective police officer. One of the things that they're going to assess them for is their ability to use force and to be able to take control of somebody. And so they're not going to think or care about that at all. That's the bad guy. He's crying. He's crying and moaning because he's going to jail. That's what's going on in their mind. I mean, obviously, what happened. I mean, I'm not saying that they're right in this situation, because I'm just saying you have to look at every situation, and that's the way that most police officers.
It almost sounds like they're trained or tested during training to not have empathy, not have a appropriate level of empathy.
No, it's a military type thing. I mean, it's like, I don't know if you ever read The Art of War, but yeah, it has nothing to emotions, and it doesn't matter. It's all about what the objective is, and it's
right.
It's
we can't have that. That kind of mentality can't continue with the police, though. That's not the way. Maybe
that's the way they're going to look at it, though. That's the way that the police.
I understand. And and also we get to the point too where cops, we can't even risk the cop, maybe potentially getting hurt at all. So sometimes the reaction is so drastic, just for their own safety. Sometimes, there was a recent video the other day that came out of a black man who had he's got his hands on his head. He's on his knees. The police officers are a yard away from him, and there's like 7 of them with a gun on his pointed at his head. I mean, that's kind of overkill. Like somebody just walk up to the guy and put the cuffs on him. They're holding.
They're walking up to journalists and shooting journalists in the head and all kinds of stuff on you. I mean, the videos are on live TV. They're literally shooting wooden, rubber bullets or wooden bullets or whichever one it is. A journalist on live TV. I think there's one on the Australia. Australia is really. It's been actually the foreign news is the way they're reporting it is the United States is in this chaotic situation right now. But then that's what the people are saying though. Like when the reporter goes there, is like the reporter is getting shot at, and they're shooting at the protesters. And this is like on live TV, and so that's how it's. I mean, it's just awful. I mean, I've seen them do so many awful. I mean, they ran over some protesters and. It's the force they're using. I mean, I can't go through the whole list of everything that they did, but it's just way too excessive. Most of the protesters are peaceful, and it seems like a lot of the stuff they do just makes them get more angry, and that's why they're smashing the windows and stuff like that. I mean, it's not. Some people are there to cause problems, or maybe, like I said, that maybe they're just taking advantage of that because they don't really, but yeah, they're egging these protesters on. It seems like in a lot of the videos that I've seen, it really seems like they're just making this crowd like more and more angry, and especially a lot of because I don't know how many of these videos you've seen, but like how many what seems to be a common situation in the ones that I watch is that they tell the people that they have to leave the area, and then they try to stand the cops down, and then they stare each other down, and then eventually they start firing tear gas and mason and all this stuff. Like it usually happens within just a few minutes. That seems to be
a situation where I don't know if you just give them a little space. Maybe if the cops didn't show up, then the people would probably just like, okay, this is kind of tiring. Let's go home.
Right? Yeah. There are people with them. They're just there to like shout out. It's just an angry mob. They're just basically most of them they're shouting at the police or whatever.
Yeah, when they're angry though, you bring the cops out there. It makes them continue to being angry, and then
it's 2 angry mobs, yeah, basically.
Right. Well, it's been about 50 minutes on this one. Typically we'll try to go 2 hours, but at least we know what a time that we're going to be doing this. So next week at 8:00, same deal, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Be doing the same thing. Maybe we'll get Tessine in. He tried to join us, but he had something happen and he couldn't join us. And I'll try to be a little more prepared, but I had some issues this week that I had to deal with.
I do have another meet. I'm a trustee on a board, and we meet next Wednesday. But I'll try to stop back in when that's over.
Okay. Well, it's nice to see you again, Tim. Not Tim, but Julian. It was nice to see Tim as well.
Likewise.
And I guess we'll sign off for now. And next week at 8:00 we'll try to do this again. Obviously nobody's watching yet, but I'm broadcasting to YouTube on the YouTube channel that nobody subscribes to anyway. And I'll give you a link to that, so that you can spread the video around if you want. But I don't know how great this video was, but it was just it's an introduction to the vodcast. One segment we're going to be doing, I want to be doing, is to try to share stupid interactions you've had online with people. So over the course of the week, if you had some really retarded argument with somebody over something, try to screenshot it and then send it to me. And then we'll do a segment on the show where we share, these kind of interactions and critique them and talk about, what fallacies they committed and how stupid what they said was.
We've all had those.
And then you can share it with them later, the video, and say, hey, guys in my group were laughing about how stupid you are. So, all right. Well, it was nice seeing you, Julian. And until next week, we're signing off. Over and out.
Fun. Have a good night.
Mm-hmm.